today's guest, Walter Rusniaczek, spent 30 years in high-pressure world of sales, leadership, and even stand-up comedy. He knows how to perform. He knows how to read a room. But he's currently in the middle of a different kind of journey, a live flip from performing to accountability. We're going to talk all about feral childhoods, the grit of comedy, and what it looks like to rebuild an engine when you're still on the side of the road. Walter, welcome to the Flip Story.
Thank you for having me at the Flip Story. How are you today, sir?
Doing great. It's,
Where would you want to begin? You want to begin with flares in the back of the car with a broken engine? You want to talk about the birth that I didn't approve of? What do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about, I think what kind of helps just to kind of ground the whole discussion is, where are you right now? What's going on where are you located, your journey?
I'm located in San Diego, California. I'm the owner and the proprietor of a place called Automotive Management Agency. So if you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle under $5,000 that may or may not run, give us a call, collect at area code 417-5255. We won't put money on your books, but we'll help you when you get out of the joint.
I like it.
Thank you.
All right. So you are in San Diego. You do have this company. You do a fair amount of speaking as well. And you want to just talk about that a little bit, just to kind of, we'll kind of go here and then we'll come back.
Sure. How I got to March 23rd, 2026. Basically, I went to college not to sell cars. And thanks to the help of my father, using my checking account, I was forced to make a lot of money really quick. So I was under the opportunity to go sell cars as I was putting my way through college. Did okay. We had fun with it, became a manager, got married. That did not go so well. We can get into that later. She passed away. Then I figured that God was giving me the opportunity to become an actor, which I thought, not God thought. Add a little alcohol to that, a little bit more fun, get a second marriage, turn that into some craziness. Then have a mental breakdown, want to blow your brains out, and then show up one day at a therapist where your therapist, who's 90 years old, who says, if you're looking for pain, you're doing it the right way. Perfect. Maybe you should read Marcus Aurelius. I'm like, yeah, that'll help. And then 2 seconds later, the phone rings. My buddy goes, maybe you should read Marcus Aurelius. That might help. Started reading that and then started doing some deep dives of the, basically what I put in my brain, sort of discovering different philosophers, not discovering them like no one knew they were out there, but integrating works into my life, different readings, and going forward from there. I don't really have a close on that. I had something clever and then I just lost my mind, probably because too many books. But that's a gist of it. So I've sold cars. I've been sober for 10 years. We could talk a little bit about the journey there, existential crisis, and what's it like to be 54 in the great old USA. So we can go from there.
All right. Well, San Diego is probably among the best cities in the world. So being 54 in San Diego, I'm sure is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, you would think so. But at 52, I thought it was a horrible experience. I wanted to end the whole thing. So I could tell me what happened in those 2 years. Marcus Aurelius saved my life. No, what saved my life was breathing. Basically, we talk about let's do our mission. We're trying to figure out what sales and now and reckoning from the past and the present. Right? You want to know when I decided to become, for better lack of purpose, accountable for my life.
Right.
And I don't think I've never been not accountable for my life. Okay, I don't think it was like someday I all of a sudden became accountable. I think for me, what happened was I joined a group that told me I had a disease, and all of a sudden I didn't have to be accountable for anything. And that was just fucking great. All of a sudden I just could give everything up to God and everything would be perfect. And for a while, that train was a lot of fun and it took a lot of stress off my life and gave me a chance to think. But also what happened was when things did not go so well, my imaginary friends were not there for me. And once again, the I have to do it myself program came on and I really wasn't prepared for that. So, I think accountability, depending on the type of upbringing, I make jokes like I was raised feral. I'm able to pee inside, but for the most part, I would keep my furniture locked down. It's humor, it's silly, but I was raised by a man. His name was Donald Edward Rusniaczek, and he was what you would call true to a lot of things, and definitely true to his word. A lot of people say, "I'll kick your ass," and they mean nothing. I'll tell you a story. Can we curse a little bit? Because
you can. I don't mind.
So I said, hey, Dad, has anyone ever called you a motherfucker? And he goes, me? No, not me. I said, have you ever called somebody? I said, so what do you do when someone calls you a motherfucker? He goes, well, son, Normally, the next response is, your mom's next. And I said, and then what happens? Well, you hope the man doesn't hear the word next because you should be throwing a blow. I said, well, don't you wait till he hits you first? He goes, this is the world, son. This isn't a playground.
Right.
And his aggression towards ignorance was strong. His aggression towards not listening was even bigger. And especially for his son, he was more, and I don't want to get into this, I have trauma and I have all this crazy stuff. It's more like
Right.
how to listen and how to adjust to what's going on in the real world, because it doesn't always come out of a book. He wanted me to read, he wanted me to learn, he wanted us, he said his whole experience on life was to make sure that I was better than he was. It's not to make you dumber, son, it's to make you smarter. But these are the things that I know that I can help you to the best I can.
Right.
So I remember we were living in Las Vegas in the 8th grade. And you talk about accountability, but this is one of the days I realized that this isn't working. And we had to move again. The police, they were after us again. And I walked in this room. I said, I'm not staying anymore. I'm going back to New Jersey, because my father had custody of me and my sister. And he looked at me square in the eyes. He says, if you don't come with me, I'm not going to make it. So I
Huh.
said, okay, you're going to make a promise. We're not moving anymore for 4 years. And if we do once, I'm gone. And he kept that promise. And I made a promise to myself that I wasn't going to be this. And I don't want to say I raised myself, because that's not a fair assessment, but I
Right.
raised myself scholastically myself. I raised myself institutionally myself. Um, so I had two different forces coming at me. I had this whatever world that my father came from, and the world that I was trying to fit into. I
Yeah.
wanted to be normal. When all my friends were buying stereo equipment, I was buying refrigerators because I was ready to nest. I had a house at 25, not because I was just a hard worker, because I wanted stability in my life. That's what I wanted. I remember I didn't get married when I was 28 because I knew the marriage wasn't going to work. There's a lot of other things about that, but I said, I can't marry you. Within 6 months later, I thought I found my soulmate, a woman who understood the hustle that I came from and the work that I came from. I married her. 4 years later, she woke up one day and said, I don't love you anymore. 6 months after that, she was dead. So that kind of put me into a tailspin of where I was supposed to be.
Right. So
What am
you're
I supposed to
28
do?
at this point?
28. I'm actually 30 at this time.
Okay.
So, you can hear me okay? On the
Yeah,
mic?
you sound good.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So, uh-oh, power outage. You hit the cord. It's okay. We're having fun. This is real pressure with real time. Make
This
sure
is
the
it.
cord's so okay. Okay, we got it. We're okay now. Perfect. And so, um, I always drank, but I drank because I was entitled to. Not like heavily, not like hard. I have 3 beers, I'd take a nap, and I'd be fine with it. But alcohol became more and more part of my life, and I couldn't get out of my own way.
Yeah.
I was able to wake up, and my dad taught me something very young, which was kind of weird. If you can't take the big city, don't go downtown. So I could always drink and wake up and go to work. So I thought I was okay. Um, but I wasn't able to process what was happening in my life, because the world doesn't wait for you. You have to keep going. And so I decided one day to wake up. It was June 15th, 2015. And I woke up and I was like, I'm done drinking. I'm done. I'm just done. And, And my ex-wife, I told her to get rid of everything, and she said, "Well, I've heard that before." And I said, "No, woman." I said, "What like with that?" I said, "Woman, if you don't do if I don't do what I say I'm going to do, I'll never ask you to do another thing again." And that's one of the things I was able to do. I just didn't do it. And within 30 days or 60 days, I'd lost like 30 pounds. I was feeling good, but I
Right.
knew something wasn't right. I didn't know. I knew I didn't fix anything. I just knew I wasn't drinking. And so I asked a buddy of mine who was in AA, and I said, "Well, give me that little trick you have to, so I don't have to worry about this anymore." And he told me to attend to a meeting. And I have to say, for the first 4 years that I did that every day, woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, went there, sat there, listened my experience, strength, and hope. I was able to take that pause that I never thought I had. I was able to think a lot. Um, I also think in time there's becomes what they call a detriment. It becomes a diminishing return, and I should have probably left earlier.
Yeah.
Because for me, and this type of person, my personality is, I want to get an A, even an AA. I want to be accepted. I want to be associated. And I didn't do things that, I'm not saying I didn't do what I believe. I'm just saying I started saying things that weren't to who I was of my character. Things like my brain isn't my friend, my ego isn't my amigo. Without my God, I'd be able to do nothing. And it took a breakdown, and a buddy of mine who actually is a Christian who said to me, he goes, "No, Walter, you did it. God didn't do anything. Now you may give credit to God and you can pray, but you're the one who went to you're the one who went to the meetings. You're the one who did things."
Right.
And even at that moment, it didn't really register, but it was enough to have me keep going forward. Got into some other different things. I had infidelity in my marriage. I wasn't able to sustain that. And when that happened, um, out of all the people in the world, she's the one that stood by me. I mean,
Right.
she could be married to me. No, she's like, we're not married. That's not going to work. But all these friends and all these make believe gods and things that were in my world, I had a metaphysical breakdown. I mean, I was done. I was done. Nothing that my support system was supposed to handle did. And this is where I have half victim and half stupidity, and then take full responsibility. It's my perception of reality. There's nothing wrong with whatever anyone else is doing. How I digested things didn't work for me. And so I was lost. And I started right away. I started taking the 13 virtues of Ben Franklin and start writing those down every day. Why Ben Franklin? It just came across my path and I had to keep writing and I had to keep writing. And for me, I have to write. I have to write something down because my hand doesn't lie to me. Okay, it
Yeah.
writes. It doesn't matter what it is, it just keeps writing. Um, and then I found some other band-aids and those didn't work. And then I got even sadder. So in this last year and a half, I probably read about 30 different books. I probably collected over 200 books. And the other books I've collected, they're basically reference guides of what I'm reading. It's funny because you're like, well, tell me what you wrote about Nietzsche. I've never got to the Nietzsche, by the way. I have it, but I never got to Nietzsche yet. But I was able to
Okay.
read for some reason James Joyce's Ulysses because I wanted to punish myself. But I did that.
Yeah, that's a long one.
That's a long one. But the unveiling of the breakdown of what people do and the things that we digest, and I think of it, call it my for better lack of terms today, a reorganization of my thoughts. And I really got interested in why people think the way they did. And and it started, like I said, with Marcus Aurelius a little bit. And it's not because I think I'm a Stoic, but it was a quote that I read, or a paraphrase that I read from him. It was, um, Christians, not bad people, but the faith may destroy the republic. And I thought about that. This is 2,500 years ago.
Right.
Or 2,000 years. How is that possible? And I started thinking about beliefs and thoughts and faith. And if you have a faith not based in reason, it's not that it's bad, it can help us. Or let's use Marx, right? I'm not a Marxist, but let's just use him. Religion is the opiate of the masses. And I'm like, thank fucking God it is. Because when I'm in spiritual pain, I need something. Okay? If I blow out my knee, I want opiates. But what I don't want is I don't want my doctor to keep giving me opiates. And
Right.
so when I'm in spiritual pain, I don't want the spiritual leaders to keep me dependent on keep coming back. What I want is I want a path to understand that I'm a human, to understand to forgive myself, and understand how to go forward and to be able to have a social contract, as Locke would say, with my fellow man. To me, that's more important than just me running around going, hey, yeah, I got this new disease. I didn't even know I had it. What was your disease? Oh, I drink too much. Well, I don't know. I don't want to get into that debate today. But for this one, to be terminally ill doesn't help me. To be in reality that my thoughts are my friends and that my brain's designed to protect me at all costs. Now, sometimes it says take a drink. Sometimes it says scream at a dog. But whatever it is, it's to protect me at all will. That's its design, to educate me and to make sure that I get out of trouble. Even if it's lie, cheat, or steal, it's designed to preserve me.
Yeah.
That's what it's designed to do. So it's working. It's not broken. Now, the question is, do I want to be like that? Now, those are ethical questions. Those are ego questions. Those are, who am I as a person? What is my agreement to myself? What is my agreement to my fellow man? That's a whole different question. But my brain, it works perfect. It's designed to get me out of trouble. Now, sometimes I have to check it and go, is that what you really want to do? And that's where our frontal lobes get to come in. That's where we
Right.
go, oh, there's consequences for our behaviors. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, there's consequences. And that's being a human. And that's a lot of fun for me. And that's what I'm starting to enjoy again. Last year, I wrote a book called Week One, like I'm weak. And I wrote it in a week because I was dating this doctor and she didn't want to hang out with me anymore. So, for that purpose, I decided let's write another book.
Right.
And what it was my buddy's like, what is this, a manifesto? I'm like, no, man, I'm not. It's not. It's just, but it's the ideas of things that happened to me that influenced my life. Like my mother was highly religious. I made a chapter called my Stepfather's Jesus Christ because I thought my mother was dating God. He never took me to a baseball game because he was so busy hanging out with his dad in heaven. So it was like having an absentee father. As might as well have my dad be in jail. It's the same thing. But
Right.
as you read that, it's comical, but it's not, because it's tragic in the sense that the need to have something help you. And it's nothing wrong with that, because a lot of times we don't know. I was thinking today a little bit. By the way, if I start rambling too much, get me back on track. But I was thinking, like, how do we get there? Or how did I get there? And I think it has to do with that, as I shared a little bit, that feral attitude and
Right.
wanting to learn how not to be dysfunctional. And I'm using the word dysfunctional because of my reading wasn't good when I was when I was a young man, because I moved too much. My math skills were good because I could focus on that and it was easy. A one and a one and as a two, and I could do that. It
Right.
kept me at least some form of stability. But these abstract concepts sometimes were beyond my thought. I had a friend once. She goes, "Your perception of life is skewed," and I went, "Oh, is that good?" She goes, "No, but it wasn't bad either." And
Right.
that's the other thing.
So,
It's funny. I have this book called "The Other Story of the Big Bad Wolf," Three Little Pigs, and it's the wolf's perspective of, all I had was, I had a head cold and I was looking for sugar. And I went next door to the pig's house, and he's an idiot. He built his house out of wood or whatever, right? Out of straw. And so I was there and I was calling for him, and the straw made my nose sneeze, and I blew his house down. And he was dead. And well, pigs look like hamburgers to me, so I ate them. And so
right.
by the end of it, the cops come because the big pig was making fun of him and his grandmother. And so the wolf has his own perspective and kind of attacked him. And so they made this story that he was an evil man, not baking cakes for his grandmother. So, that's kind of how I think of the world sometimes. It's like, where are you coming from? Anyway, what was my point? I don't know. I like cheese. Anyway, I like cheddar. Anyway, back to you, sir. Go ahead. Any questions, comments, concerns?
No concerns. No
All right.
concerns. So, let me ask you. So, you got this kind of feral childhood, bouncing
Okay.
around. Sounds like you were in Vegas for at least 4 years.
No, that was a year. That was a year. Nothing was more than 4 years until we got to Huntington Beach. Everything out of
Okay.
that was 6 months to a year, and pack your stuff, let's go. Okay. Pack your stuff, let's go. Okay.
Right. And mom's in Jersey, so that's where you were, I assume,
Praying to
born.
Jesus, trying to figure out what happened. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you kind of go through that chapter. You got some marriage. You were doing some stand up. Was that in L.A. or was that in San
No, that
Diego?
was later on. That happened after, when I was starting to act.
Yeah.
When you get real fat and then you think you're going to be just sad like everyone else. And that was tragic, but that was fun.
Where were you for that?
San Diego, LA, just bopping around here and there. I wouldn't call myself a stand-up comic. I call myself humorous. I don't really humor.
Okay.
But stand-up is a whole nother animal. And
Yeah.
I respect anyone who can do it. And at the same time, I'm like, okay. It's a monster.
It's not for
Uh,
everyone.
it's and sometimes it is for me, depending on how angry I am. But as my instructor once says, you're just not there to scream at people. They want to have a good time. I'm like, well, that's not me. Anyway, back to you, sir.
All right. So you kind of fast forward now to you go through this journey in AA, which sounds like it was pretty positive, maybe a little constrictive, but was it the right time for you at that moment, or was it
I don't have a fucking clue.
okay?
I swear to God, I don't know. I take the things that I learned, which was, I'm sober.
Yeah.
Learn that the responsibility is, I didn't drink. And these are the things where I reel back. Like they'll say, well, I drink because I didn't do the steps. I'm like, no, you drink because you want to drink. That's the truth. You do the steps because it helps distract you so you don't drink. You go to meetings so that you reinforce the idea that you're around people that also don't want to drink. So that's a positive thing.
Right.
But there are some things in its doctrine, and the least, depending on the types of meetings you go and who you're associating with, it's eventually we have to get healthy.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it. And so I do have people sometimes come up to me and they ask me about it, and I'll take someone to a meeting because I don't have the power to make someone stop. And there is a unity that helps
Right.
people not just identify, but at least gives them a safe space to at least be responsible. But like I said, there is some fine things for me that it's I'm not there anymore, and
Right.
I don't endorse it and I don't rail against it.
Fair. All right. So now this philosophical journey you're on, is
Yeah.
this you driving this, or is this you, like, people are feeding you books? Do you have like a
No, I
mentor here, or how'd you
no.
get into all this?
Literally, it's reading upon reading that stimulates another book. So the demise and fall of the Roman Empire by Edward Gibbons.
Yeah.
There's the 8 volume every man's copy, or the 6 volume for the person who likes to hold bigger books. And there's a lecture on the great courses, and really watching and reading that exposed me to history in a way that I had never seen it before. And it wasn't just history of like, then this date happened, and then this date happened. It was historically what was speaking and the writers who reflect the thoughts of the time. And by reflecting the thoughts of the time, I can see where I hold that thought and it's carried forward. So an example, we'll use a monolithic God. That's always good. So we went to many gods, which helps with science, and what I observed in very plush areas like Egypt or Greece or Rome, where there was a lot of flourishing. You have time to have different gods that can give you food, or can give you water, and give you rain, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're in Mesopotamia and it's just hot, one god's enough, and I just want water. Kind of makes sense to me. But then, and you look and you're like, okay. And then you're like, well, how does this change how we see things? And I think it's that understanding as a person that is this, I love this line. We're not rational people, but we have the ability to be rational. And I think that's pretty interesting of the human, is that we have the ability to be rational. We have the ability to think. We don't always think. I mean, that's
Right.
why we have courts. That's why we have all these contracts and all these ideas of things. Um, but I'm still interacting with others. And I have to be able to interact with myself. So what influenced me? So I'm influenced by Christianity. I'm influenced by Judaism. I'm influenced by Muslims. I'm influenced by the Crusades. I'm influenced. And like, how are you influenced by these things? It's the decisions that were made in history to come. If it wasn't for the oppressions of these things, then we would have an Enlightenment period. If it wasn't for thinkers that said, hey, look, even Descartes was like, well, I don't want to say there is no God, but maybe there is a no God. I
Right.
even think that Descartes was a genius because I think he's very Moses-like. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but this one's fun for me. So Moses comes down and he goes, hey, everybody, I'm back. And he's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And they showed him the 10 commandments. So he had to come up with some idea of who gave him these things. The one that says, I am. Oh, well, God must have gave it to you. And so when Descartes says, I think, therefore I am, it's Descartes saying, I am God. And I'm like, that's my interpretation. And if man has the ability to think, then he has the ability to rule his own world. And if I have the ability to rule my own world, you have the ability to rule your own world. And I think that's a pretty exciting part to be in life, being empowered to think. Now, I don't think God gets mad if there is a God or not a God. I'm not here to debate that. But the fact that we all have not the inner light within you, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the miracle in itself of just being alive, the randomness in that. I mean, I'm the winner out of a load of sperm. I'm the winner. I'm the one that won. So are you. So I'm already a champion when I get out of here, right? I come out day one, the winner. Then what
Right.
happens is, who the hell knows? But that day I won. You know what I mean? And so that to me is exciting. That to me is the purpose of life. I remember reading Victor Franklin, the Man's Search for Meaning,
Yep.
the
That's
Lost
a tough
Survivor
one.
from Auschwitz. Yeah, the
Yep.
first half is not a fun read, but the
I've read
second,
half of it. That's
But
fascinating that you're about to talk about the second half. I got to the first half and I was like, this is too intense.
get to the second half,
All right.
because there's a phrase that I took. You may take it differently, but he's like, nothing lasts forever. And even as a prisoner, I realized I wasn't going to be a prisoner forever, but I'm doing what the world asked me to do. And the world asked me to be a prisoner right now. What's the responsible of a prisoner? Don't fucking die. Don't die. That's my job. My job's not to die.
All
Fuck
right.
them. I'm not going to die. I'm so mean and spiteful. I'm not going to die. And I'm like,
I don't think that was Frankel, though. He wasn't so mean and spiteful.
no, but that's how I heard. That's when I read it, though. But his
Yeah.
job said, do what the world's asking me to do. And that's what it's asking me to do right now. That's how I heard it, right? That's what I said. That's why you get to read and you get to own these things. But the point being is, don't do that. Just do your best. Not do your best. It's just, that's too stupid. But you're responsible to be alive. There's a great book by Lulu Miller, which I was given last year, called Why Fish Don't Exist. And it's the story of David Starr Jordan, who was the first president of Stanford. Big in eugenics, right? Liked fish, named all the fish. But what's interesting about it is that he knew he lived in chaos and that life had no meaning. And because life had no meaning and because it was chaos, it was man's responsibility to put order in it. Even though you can't control it, even after the, 1906 earthquake, he got up, watered his fish, and started relabeling his fish. I'm making a book that's this thick into like a 30-second thing, but if you
Right.
get a chance to read it, even the author was talking about how her father would take her out and say, what's the meaning? Well, he was a scientist. Well, it has no meaning, but that's why it has meaning. And those little nuances, and it's not nihilistic, and it's not this woe is me. It's the miracle that I'm here, that I get to stand on the shoulders of giants, and just for that, it has meaning. It could be bigger. It could be your family's shoulders that you're standing on. It could be the first person that came out of the immortal ooze that came out of it. It doesn't matter, but at any given point, there's a reality that someone wanted you to be better. And that's pretty cool. Or at least themselves to be better. And thought it arrogant enough for them at least to reproduce, to make a better version of them. And even that's a great idea. And that's kind of the path that I look. The people that I interact with, even when they're sad, they don't even realize how wonderful they are. They don't even understand how wonderful their life really is, even when it sucks. And it sucks not just because of conditions in this, it's a mental ownership of what's happening. And I think sometimes, and that's the other thing, it's like, how do I integrate all this? And that's the part that's interesting. I talk about, I'm like everybody. I mean, I'm influenced by anything. I'm a sheep, man. You tell me that I can lose weight in 10 minutes, I'm going to pay attention. You tell me I can read War and Peace in 15 minutes and not miss a word, I can speed read it and be that genius, and all I have to do is take this one pill, I'm taking two. I got it. I understand. I want the cheat. I want to win. But then as you get older, you realize there's no cheat. God damn it, I got to read the whole book.
Questionable if there's even a win.
Well, even that. But the point is you get to live it. And that's kind of fun. I remember, and this kind of goes back to AA stuff. I want to be sober for 10 years. I'm like, I don't. I want to be sober today, because in 10 years, I'm 10 years older. Just let me have today. Just give me fucking today, man. Stop rushing my life away. I can rush it all by myself. I don't need to compete against nothing. And it's funny because I thought about, you wrote about the engine. You say, well, what's the rebuilding of the engine? And I thought about Atlas Shrugged and Ayn Rand and John Galt. Who's John Galt? That's always a fun question. But this is a little, and I get actually mad at her writing in this book. She writes this character who's going to make the world's greatest engine. And then because, they want to exploit him, or not exploit him, that's the wrong word. They want him to work for free, so he doesn't want to work anymore. He's going to strike, and all the great minds are going to strike.
Right.
And I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you. Get the fucking work, jack off. Do your fucking job, and if they like it, good, and if they don't, fuck you. That's how I read the book. Because, I curse at the books. I even cross out things, I get angry. But the point of the matter is, it's still a great And talk about ego of Ayn Rand. And I love the woman. I got 27 of her books. I'm a mental case. I mean, I like the woman. I think she's great. When I get confused, is it real? Is it objective? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But she's so arrogant. She wrote a monologue that's longer than Molly's monologue in Ulysses. It's 3 pages longer. That's
Yeah.
crazy. You know how long
Yeah.
that monologue is? It only has 1 period, literally, because she has a period in the middle of the monologue. But anyway, I digress. I'm having a good time. Thank you for letting me ramble. No one else will let me. If you sat next to me in the DMV, you'd definitely get away. But if we were on a flight, sorry, man, you're captive for 5 hours.
I'm
Anyway.
good with that.
All right.
I can listen, I can talk. I spent a pretty good amount of time out west myself, so I kind of get
So,
the journey.
but the point I was making at the end of that point is many of us strike too soon. And
What
I
do you mean
think,
by that?
well, we all think we're John Galt, that we can strike and that the world will be fine without us. And I don't know if that's true, because I know I'm not fine without the world. You know, I can't just retreat or hide because I don't like the way something's going. Doesn't mean I have to start arguing with everybody I ran into, even though it does remind me of a great Diogenes statement. He goes, why do you keep yelling? Because in the beginning, I used to yell to make people change their minds. Now I yell so people don't change my minds, which is neat. Don't get me wrong. But, but then I think of people
So
like Admiral Rickover, and this is a man who the world did not want to build a nuclear submarine. He went to Congress to get the funding that was necessary, and his own Navy didn't let him, and he built the first one, and we have a nuclear fleet today because of a man who would not, let's just say, take no for an answer. Didn't even register to him. There wasn't, I don't take no for an answer. He's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Anyway, so we're going to build this because we can. Well, no, we can't do it. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so here's the engineering behind it. So now what do you want to do? And that's where I want to live. I want to live in, I don't care what you think, not out of boldness or out of boldness because I want to do something that's important. At least like this, I think this is important. What we're doing today, I think speaking is important. I think
yeah,
sharing is important. I think it's important. Is it life-changing? It might be to me. It might be to you. It might be to somebody one day who walks around and goes, what are these crazy books this idiot's talking about? I hate
it
that guy.
has meaning.
To somebody, it might help them. And that's all I can do. I can't, that's it. That's exciting to me. And that's why I've started going into writing again. And I want to start, in my changes. I'm coming out of Carland, and I don't want to sell systems. I'm not here to sell a system to anybody, but I'd like the opportunity to share and talk with people who I might be able to assist. I don't want to use the word influence because I hate that word.
Yeah.
Not inspire, but wake up again, that I have what they already have what I have. They just either forgot or let it go to sleep. They're
I
like,
want to
I
circle
am.
back on one
Go ahead.
thing.
Go ahead.
You
Circle
had,
back on
you
3
had,
things.
well, so one in particular, you'd mentioned this concept of ready to strike. Do you think you're ready to strike now? Or are
I
you
have
still
to. No, no,
exploring?
no, 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 no. I don't think I ever wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew how to sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's where anger comes in. When you want to do something and you don't know how to do it.
You think that's age appropriate? When you're younger, you're more likely to be angry. When you get older, you start to just have more
No, actually,
nuanced.
I think it's actually a reverse scale. I think when you're
Yeah,
younger, you accept that you don't know anything. I think when you're older, you expect you should know something by now.
maybe.
Sometimes, like, I don't understand. Like, well, of course you don't understand. The whole world changed, man. You were taking a nap. I took a nap. I took a nap, and this is what happened. I'm like, yeah, I took a nap. This is what happened. Don't take a nap. Um, no, when I'm using the word anger, it's not just politics or families or work or gas prices. I think it's, in your heart, at least I know in my heart, I shouldn't worry about those things, but I should be concerned about those things. So what can I do to make those things better? And how do I digest those things? And how do I produce something that's worthwhile? That's not just some candy ass piece of nonsense, you know? Um, and that's talking with people who can think.
Yeah. Do you feel you're at this point now where you have to produce something that's worthwhile? I think for a lot of folks, they go through life and they're totally fine. They're like okay with just kind of living. They're not necessarily going and chasing a worthwhile pursuit. They're
That's a great
comfortable in the
question.
now.
I understand. I understand. Don't think I don't think you can live life without pursuing something. I think that hole that they talk about in AA, they call it the God hole. I think it's man's, I use it as mankind. It's our responsibility never to fill the thirst of life. So it may not be I have to go make the next iPhone or something world something, but it has to mean something. Everything I have to do has to have meaning for me. And when I lose meaning, I think that's a crime. I
Your
think
whole
that,
life or more
and
recently?
just whenever, like in those moments of those gaps in my life that I've had, I think those are the sins of that I carry. Not the behaviors I've done, but the sins of not not. I'm using the word work for purpose for better lack of term, but have meaning. Like today's my meaning was waking up, being prepared to speak with you. Was that
Right.
enough? That's enough. Now I have some other things I have to do here that are work related that also need my attention and will be addressed. But there has to be a reason. And when there's not a reason, go help someone until you find your reason. Again, I guess that's the best I can say for that.
I, yeah, and I guess what I'm kind of probing at is, so did you always have that
Always.
this concept, and you understood even in those moments that you weren't fulfilling that, or is this something that you
No,
now
I
you know and you can look back on and
no,
say,
no. I always knew it. And I think
yeah,
that's where my hostility comes in through the little lapse of surrender in my AA experience.
right,
Where it became a timeout. Hence, I use the words once again. Religion is the opiate of the masses, and I needed it. I needed, I needed, I needed some. I needed help. I
yeah,
couldn't stand for whatever reason, whatever things I did or whatever things that were happening. They weren't. They were moving too fast, and it just wasn't working. That's fine, but I needed a program, and I'm using the word program. I needed to remember that just do it yourself, and I let that go. So that's the only thing I can, that's not that's the big shift in my life. Owning it the day you look at your father and you say, I'm not doing this. And then when you show up at one of these things and you go, okay, I'll let it go. And they go, whoa, 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 I can't let it go. That's not what happened. That's not what life is about.
right,
For me. Um, I know I make jokes about feralness and things like that. I mean, it's dynamic. You know, is it more than some and less than others? Sure. Does it make me? Do I get to go to therapy and make good excuses if I want? But
right,
does it help me? It helps me if I can spot someone in pain and let them know that everything will be okay. That's where it's helpful. But to say that I can't do my work because of that is not acceptable. And I think the
okay,
biggest fantasy that hurt, or I was talking to a gentleman today who's a vet, only 4 years service, um, and he came back and he still thought he was a corporal. And what he couldn't understand is his bed was made every day, but the rest of the world wasn't making their bed. A- And I was like, yeah, because it's not important if they make their bed, but it is important. Oh no, it's extremely important that you make your bed. But they didn't have that same discipline. And so to bring your disciplines into a world that either doesn't recognize it or you think that they should, or you think that's we use the word um I guess the path of righteousness, right? And others aren't doing it, it it slowly gets eroded to you, and you start eroding your own belief system because of wanting to be accepted, or because it doesn't matter, or you believe it doesn't matter, and then you start giving up, or at least I did at some level. But
yeah,
in this experience, we were talking, and we were like, "Yeah, that happens," and that's sad. And you hear people say, No, don't lose yourself. And basically, I don't think you can examine the life until you realize it's broken. And I don't think you know it's broken until you realize the axioms in which you're living may be skewed.
Well, it's I think a lot of life is just naturally skewed. There's perspective. There's also surprise. There's I don't know, it's maybe not debt, but you acquire. You just acquire ideas, not and sometimes it's hard to shed some of them and you carry too much weight and you get overbalanced. That's at least been my experience, kind of in the vein of trying to find a way in a complicated journey.
Yeah. What's next, sir?
What's next? Well, this has been fun. So I think what's next, if I could, I'm going to invite you to share a flipped recipe for the storybook. So this is a set of ingredients, method, key instructions, and here's your final product.
The final product of the ingredients for a flip script. Is that correct?
It's your story.
I thought
It's,
about
yeah. It's
I
basically all the guests have their own version of what they want to
I went with
impart.
fruit
Go ahead.
salad and a cornucopia for Thanksgiving. That's what I started with.
Okay.
And where did I wrote notes on it because I thought it was clever. Hold on a second. Of course, I can't remember how clever I was. Hold on. All right, so I kind of went with a Faust take on it. Okay, so I said a fruit salad is always changing, right? And it has different ingredients in it. Some people like apples, some people like pears, but it's still a fruit salad. And the story of Dr. Faust, when it was written in 1609, it's a play that says that if you sell your soul to the devil because you're trying to find unnecessary, if you're trying to find more of your life, meaning you question authority and you're not paying attention and you want to know more than you're selling your soul to the devil and you're going to go to hell. It's then rewritten, just Faust. And Faust, the new Faust, he does a lot of damage. But he's redeemed. And he's redeemed because he's trying. And I think that's where that phrase of sin comes from, just assuming and just giving up and looking for the shortcut versus seeking something that's important to you. And if you find it today, you get it again tomorrow. And I think that's kind of the recipe of the flip. Remember that you can be satisfied, but when you're hungry, just keep fighting.
I love that. Well done. Well told.
Thank you, sir.
Walter, how can people find you?
Screaming out their window, I'm mad as hell. Take it anymore. There you go. There's Howard Beale for you. They can find me at Book Walter, right? Book Walter at walterruskin.com.
Okay.
You can email me there and I'll answer your questions or comments or concerns. Oh, you can follow me on the Instagram. What am I on Instagram? Walter Under Pressure.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well done.
Anywhere else I can be followed? My new book's coming out. What's the name of my new book? I had a couple names for it. What was the name of that I really liked? Oh, In Search of Ignorance.
All right. Keep an eye out for it.
That's going to be fun, right? In Search for Ignorance. So that's that one's it. I also have Heresy, the comic book, coming out soon, but that's not really for kids. It's more for adults.
Right.
Everyone's got their clothes on, but it's pretty hot. And that's where you can find me. Or, at the DMV, trying to get cars registered.
Or at the DMV down in beautiful San Diego.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I want to say thank you. Really, thank you for coming on and for sharing. It's been a very fast-moving conversation. I got a lot to digest off of this one.
I want to thank you because most of the podcast I do is they want to talk about selling cars. And based on the pre-notes that you gave me, you let me go a little off my I like to sell cars, and
right.
And I appreciate that. And speaking like this solidifies ideas and lets me get rid of other ideas.
There you go. So
Helps me clean my spring cleaning in my brain.
Full service here, brain cleaning.
Like, hey,
is,
look how
the-
clean it is. Oh, that guy's got a clean brain now. Look at him. Let's follow
went
that
from
guy.
human potential to brain cleaning. I think that's probably a better subheader for the show.
Yeah, brain
I
clean.
like it.
Walt Rusniaczek.
Uh,
You have a wonderful day, sirs.
hey, you do the same. And for everyone tuning in, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.